Hello and welcome to the EPRI Current. My name is Samantha Gilman and I am joining you from Electrification 2024. I am here in the expo hall on the startup stage and we'll be interviewing different thought leaders and industry insiders throughout this episode that I am calling Voices of Electrification, to hear from the people who are putting this research and this technology into action on the ground, and also talk to people who've been working on this stuff for 10, 20, 30 years and hear their insights and also where they see the industry going and what may be next. So let's start off with our first guest. We have Michael Wu, the founder and CEO of Converge Strategies. And quick side story, Michael and I actually worked for the same member of Congress, just crossing paths. I actually took the position that he had when he left for law school. So it's so funny how, our paths crossed back there on the Hill. And now some years later, we're now here at Electrification 2024. So since then, you've come to found Converge Strategies. So tell us a bit about your background from then to now and why you founded Converge Strategies.
Absolutely. Thanks, Samantha. And thanks for having me. It's been a terrific Electrification 2024. So yeah, after you and I both spent hundreds of hours delivering congressional tours, I left for law school and had the opportunity to go from law school to serving in the Army JAG Corps. As an officer, and really started from there getting into energy and climate and national security issues. And in particular was compelled by this idea that by deploying clean energy, we could actually strengthen our national security, strengthen our military's capabilities. Leaving that, the tail end of the Obama administration, had the opportunity to serve in the Pentagon as the senior advisor for energy resilience in the U.S. Air Force. So thinking about how we take emerging technologies and developing new business models to deploy to Air Force installations in order to protect those critical missions and installations from widespread regional power disruption scenarios, which I think are becoming an increasing risk and threat to our nation. So I left at the transition in administrations and started Converge Strategies shortly thereafter. So 7 years ago, we've done some really great work, I think, around that intersection of clean energy, resilience, and national security. How are we deploying clean energy and thinking about integrating resilience and security as first principles in the clean energy transformation? So ensuring that at every step of the way, we're designing these new energy systems in a way that means that in addition to decarbonizing, that we're also creating more resilience and putting our critical infrastructure on a more resilient posture.
And so sort of as you were saying, your company is sort of building bridges between government, military, private sector to improve energy independence and resilience. Can you expand on that a bit and what sort of projects you're doing? Yeah,
absolutely. Like we articulate our work around 3 areas of impact. So number one, we work directly with the Department of Defense on their clean energy, climate, and energy resilience initiatives. So we do that by going to bases. We run things called energy resilience readiness exercises, where we turn off the power to a base and sort of identify what kinds of gaps happen with their ability to execute their missions, their continuity of operations plans, and things like that. We do that also on like a tabletop exercise basis. So if you don't want to go all the way and pull the plug, you can at least test, some of your fundamental assumptions around what you think has backup and how it works. We also work with city, states, and private sector partners that want to work with DoD on military-civilian partnerships. So every base all across the country is dependent on critical infrastructure in those defense communities to serve the mission requirements on the base. And so one of the things that we do is run regional resilience workshops where we gather together the folks on the base who are working, who are executing missions and working to maintain the infrastructure on the base. And then the infrastructure owners, utilities, and others off base who are working within the community, and think about how they could work together more collaboratively to develop solutions that both strengthen the critical infrastructure resilience of the community, but really with the intention of ensuring that the base itself also has access to that critical infrastructure when it's needed most. And then finally, we work on the purely civilian side on how to deploy clean energy to support critical infrastructure. Like we're seeing massive new electricity demand due to electrification. Obviously, we're all here, due to data centers, due to electric vehicle deployment and things like that. And a fundamental question is, how are we going to meet that new demand, again, in a way that actually means that we'll be able to survive increasingly frequent and severe weather events, determined adversaries who are targeting our electric grid every day. And so how are we reimagining the electricity system in a way that is not only cleaner, but also more resilient and secure?
So expanding upon something you just said in this context of resilience and clean technology, what role is electrification playing in that?
Yeah, I think there's a couple roles that I see it as playing. Number one is when you reimagine the electricity sector in a way that, in general has been very top down, like big generation stations flowing down through transmission and distribution lines to customer loads. And obviously we're seeing that model transforming. We're seeing lots of different, what some folks would call prosumers, right? People who are both producing and consuming electricity. That requires just like a reimagining for utilities and folks like EPRI who are helping do the research required to understand how that just operates correctly. How do we maintain balancing supply and demand of the only commodity that's consumed at the speed of light, with also thinking about the market incentives that and the market design for rates and things like that, and policies that support our public policy goals, which again have to be about confronting the climate crisis.
So just continuing that thought, how is clean energy tech and electrification and tackling, as the industry tackles these climate issues and resilience and preparing for the climate of tomorrow, how does this process strengthen our national security?
I think there's really two ways to look at it, Samantha. Like one is, we're going to be increasing by exponentially the number of, possible points of what cybersecurity experts would say attack surface, right? Like every time we're putting new, smarter technology devices that will help us do that kind of balancing between supply and demand, they'll help us make smart decisions about, where we're deploying load, where we're reducing demand due to environmental factors or something like that, and where we can respond to market incentives more quickly. Those are also cybersecurity potential points of entry. And so we have to ensure that doesn't happen. And then the second part is that all of those places, if you redesign the grid effectively, they can be locally controlled. You can create neighborhoods that can be locally self-sufficient because they're both producing electricity and can store that and control that in a way that allows for, say, segmenting of neighborhoods, segmenting of campuses, university campuses, military bases, things of that nature. And so I think the opportunity is that we have to rethink the way we manage these market structures. But the opportunity is that you can do so in a way that actually really enhances the resilience and security of what ultimately matters, which is our, individual consumers' ability to access electricity when they need it most.
Up next, we have Sydney Roberts. She is the Director of Technology and Market Solutions for the Southeast Energy Efficiency Alliance, also known as SEIA. Thank you for being here. And why don't we just start off, tell us a bit about who SEIA is, what SEIA is, and what you do there.
That's a great question. First, thank you so much for having me, for having this event and for having it in Georgia and in the Southeast region. SEIA is a regional energy efficiency organization. Our mission is to promote energy efficiency as a catalyst for economic development, workforce development, and to improve the standard of living for all residents in our region, which is 11 states and 5 island territories. We also do some work in Hawaii as well. The climate zones are very similar. Our work is really grounded in partnership and in equity. So we work through partners like EPRI and others who are members and who are stakeholders in the process.
Great. So we know buildings are some of the largest consumers of energy. Can you tell us a bit how SEIA works with advanced building technology?
Absolutely. Buildings are one of our core areas of work, as well as energy efficient transportation, workforce development, and community solutions and policy. For buildings, we have a number of initiatives that are ongoing, as well as some that are kind of recurring. One of our big focuses right now is in building energy codes, which impact mostly new construction. But once the homes are constructed, they become used buildings right away. So it's a way to improve the building stock. And in the Southeast, our building stock is among the poorest in the nation, largely because our building codes are less progressive than a lot of parts of the country. So we work through stakeholder networks to provide education and technical assistance about how to implement the building codes that are in place, how to enforce the building codes equitably so that the builders, architects, the tradespeople can comply with building codes as best as possible.
And so yesterday you spoke on one of our plenary sessions focused on equity. Can you tell us a little bit about how SEIA sort of is working on this topic of equity, which it's on the tip of everybody's tongue, but it's such an interesting topic because people's definitions are different and whatever it may be. So I'm interested to hear a little bit about what SEIA is doing on that.
Well, as I mentioned, equity is really core to all of the work that we're doing. And it has been and continues to be a process for us to understand how our work has the potential to impact communities. And one of the main ways that we continue to develop that understanding is to include impacted communities and stakeholders in our program development and evolution. One of the examples that I gave yesterday in that plenary session was a project that continues to evolve and grow, where we were engaged in a local community project close to Atlanta, where our headquarters is, in Gwinnett County, Georgia, one of the most diverse counties in the country, really. And the local state representative was aware of a lot of opportunities for federal funding, but there was not clarity on how to bring those resources to his community. So he asked us if we could help him get a handle on that. So through stakeholder engagement, working with community-based organizations, labor organizations, and also we have a very strong data analytics capacity that takes data in, does a lot of data fusion, and then uses that information for storytelling. We're able to paint a picture of the resources and challenges in Gwinnett County, and then also help them to go after additional funding, which now has resulted in them having multiple millions of dollars that they can use for training of tradespeople to actually do building upgrades.
So after hearing you speak yesterday and doing a little research into SEIA, supporting Southeast economies and communities is at the core of what you do, and bringing affordable energy to these communities in the Southeast. Can you give us an example of an initiative that exemplifies the work that SEIA is doing?
Absolutely. So we are just now starting a research project that's funded by the Department of Energy. And it's through their Building America program, which has been the Department of Energy's premier residential home research program for decades. It's a very exciting program. It's led to a lot of innovations. And they are now have formed a number of teams to work on residential retrofits, which is super exciting. And our team is really focused on an electrification challenge, which is that we are going to be installing heat pumps in literally millions of homes where, especially in the Southeast, we already have forced air heating and cooling. So we have duct systems in these homes. And in the vast majority of these homes, the duct systems are in poor repair. They're either very leaky, the sizing is incorrect, they're under insulated, all of the above. So what is going to be the consequence of that if we just put in the new heating and cooling system and we don't address the duct system? Well, we're not going to get the energy savings that we all expect. Homeowner's not going to be happy. Utility's not going to be happy. Manufacturer, Department of Energy, nobody's going to be happy. So what do we do? So that's the challenge for our Building America team, is how can we create a process that the market embraces, that contractors actually want to do because it helps them sell jobs, that where the output and the outcome is that not just the heat pump itself gets installed, but also the duct systems get improved. The homes are more comfortable. The air quality is improved. And we have a new high performance heat pump that's an electrified solution.
Well, hopefully at Electrification 2026, you can come back and tell us how that went so we can start implementing your found solution. I
take your invitation seriously.
I actually mean it seriously. We'll be in touch. Our next guest here at Electrification 2024 is Latanza Ajay. She is the Senior Vice President and Chief Customer Officer at Georgia Power. Now, you've held many roles in your impressive 30-year career at Georgia Power, culminating in you becoming the Chief Customer Officer. How is Georgia Power preparing for this shift towards electrification and decarbonization?
Yes. Well, as you said, over 30 years, I've seen lots of change. But I will tell you, we are very well prepared for this shift to decarbonization and electrification. If you think about Georgia Power, and even better, the Southern Company, right, which is the parent company of Georgia Power, what you see is a company that keeps one eye on today and another eye on tomorrow. And so that truly is a part of the fabric of who we are. It's one of our core beliefs. Evidence of that is the nuclear construction project that we just finished.
Vogtle?
That's it. Vogtle 3 and 4, those units. Vogtle 3 is online. Vogtle 4 will be online now any day, and we're excited about that. Now, remember, we started preparing for those projects nearly 15 years ago with our Public Service Commission, understanding that decarbonization would need to have that portfolio of assets as a part of the future. And so we've been pioneering that future to net zero, Vogtle 3 and 4 being the latest evidence of our preparation. When it comes to electrification, we've seen electric transportation as a key driver to get there for customers. But in order to adopt, the first thing they need to do is get rid of places where they're wasting energy. So we've had energy efficiency programs for over a decade now to help our customers learn how to be smart about how they use the product, so that when it's time to adopt things like electric transportation, they have the energy wallet ready to transition and shift.
And going back to Vogtle real quick, and I hope I'm not stealing your thunder for a later question, but correct me if I'm wrong, but it's going to be the largest clean energy generator in the country?
Right. That's right. That's right.
That's fantastic.
That's right. So there were already 2 nuclear units. They are producing about 1,200 megawatts of power. We'll double that capacity with another 2 units. We are so excited. Over 500,000 homes will be powered by those new units.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how do you prepare your customers for this clean energy transition, including communicating those benefits to them?
Absolutely. So one, the biggest thing is education. We've really got to educate our customers on where is it that they had not been using electricity in the past, but it really is the smarter and best decision moving forward, especially as the technology changes. So for our large customers, we continue to have key account managers that sit there side by side with the customer to evaluate where the transition to electric makes good sense and to help them conduct that transition. And of course, our corporate communications team has a full-on communication plan to educate the masses as well. Once we educate them, the second thing we have to have is programs that help to enable adoption. Our Make Ready program is a great example of that. It's where our company will pay for the infrastructure from the transformer to the customer's meter base to help them bring that electric technology straight on into the business.
And speaking of that electrification,
Yes.
What trends do you see for electric vehicles, and how is the company preparing?
So before this job, I actually led fleet services for mostly Southern Company. And so I was on the cutting edge of a lot of those decisions for our own. So definitely we see those trends. The first is battery efficacy. Right now, the Ford pickup truck is out there with 200 and 300 miles range. The Chevrolet Silverado is out there now. It's got 450 miles range. All of the battery efficacy advancements that we see, allowing these technologies to be adopted by a wider base of users is fantastic. We're also excited to see all the charging infrastructure proliferation, right? We're here in Savannah, and it's not hard to find a charger in Savannah right now these days.
It's also not hard to find a charger in this room.
Yeah.
There are multiple charging companies exhibiting today.
That's right. That's right. Because their product is going to be very convenient for us to find, and we want to use it. And the last is really just the infrastructure having the smart controls and technology so that when we all plug in to charge, they're optimizing those charging cycles, making sure that we're getting the best bang for our buck. So all of those trends are paving the way for us to go to electric.
So when you plan for the customer experience, what do you think is next?
Oh, that's a great choice. So first, we are completely excited about AI and the ability that it has to transform the customer experience. We've been proactive and we're proud about that, but we are moving to being what we call preemptive, right? Where we truly can use AI to predict what is the reason why a customer might need us next month. We've looked at the data and we'll go ahead and present that information or go ahead and solve for that for the customer now. Also, AI will fuel a natural language experience with the customer in our chat channels that we are excited about so that our self-service customer is a much wider base of customers who don't feel like they're talking to a bot. They actually feel like they're talking to a person. So those things are to us just beautiful trends coming even on the customer service side of our business. That'll help all customers.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners?
Yeah. This is one of the most exciting times to work in our industry. I've been here now 30
Absolutely.
years, and I would say I'm more excited to go to work today than I was many, many years ago. And I can tell you that Southern Company, Georgia Power, and many other utilities too, we're prepared and ready for this transition. We're confident that we can help our customers meet their past needs, but more importantly, their future needs. So electrification is a smart thing for them. It's a smart thing for us. We're going to make sure we do it together.
Fantastic. Well, that wraps up part 1 of our Voices of Electrification series. Stay tuned for in maybe a couple months, you'll hear part 2, where we'll be talking more around electrification of transportation. But for today, I'm signing off.
If you like today's show, we invite you to subscribe to our podcast. And feel free to share the podcast with your colleagues and friends. For more information about EPRI, please visit our website at www.epri.com. And don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter at EPRI News. Together, we are shaping the future of energy.